So I just want to reiterate that this isn't a test that you can pass or fail. It's an assessment. Well, it's a couple of assessments, actually, that have been designed to basically help you learn more about yourself, so that if it is the case that you are neurodiverse, you can find and use tools that will help you understand yourself a bit more, understand the world around you, and also enjoy being you. Enjoy how unique you are, because you are unique and you are perfect. So please just, rest assured that there are no right or wrong answers. It's not a test, okay? You can't pass it, and you certainly can't fail it, okay? So with that in mind, on with the test. I'm joking. It isn't a test, just to reiterate. I'll be going through a number of different questions, and I just want you to answer them as honestly as possible so that we can get the most accurate picture of how you feel and how you get by in the world around you. Okay? Now, after the questions, after all the different bits and bobs, I will write a report that I'll send to you, and that will contain my opinion as to whether or not you are diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, as we call it nowadays. You don't have to agree with that assessment. You can decline the diagnosis. It's completely up to you. Also, I'll be taking notes the entire time that you and I are talking. I don't want you to worry about it. They're just notes for myself and tick boxes that I fill in. You can have a look at any point you want, and I will enclose a copy of this with the report that I write to you. Okay? Cool. So, are you ready to begin? All right. So this first one, you will hear some of these questions repeated in the questionnaire after this. This is just a sort of really quick reference, broad strokes assessment, how you're feeling, and also sort of general telltale signs that we look for when we talk to adults who are potentially going to be diagnosed with ASD. All right. So there's only 10 questions on this one, and I would like you to either definitely agree, slightly disagree, or definitely disagree with these statements. All right? Now, I'll repeat that because that was confusing, but let's try one of the questions. So, I often notice small sounds when others do not. So, do you definitely agree, slightly disagree, or definitely agree? Disagree. I'm confusing myself. I often notice small sounds when others do not. Definitely agree, slightly disagree, definitely disagree. Which one? Okay, sorry about that. All right. I usually concentrate more on the whole picture rather than the small details. So, agree or disagree. All right. I find it easy to do more than one thing at once. If there is an interruption, I can switch back to what I was doing very quickly. Remember, definitely agree, slightly disagree, definitely disagree. Okay. You want to? Yeah. If there is an interruption, I can switch back to what I was doing very quickly. Okay. I find it easy to read between the lines when someone is talking to me. I find it easy to read between the lines, like work out what their intention is, when someone is talking to me. Okay? I know how to tell if someone is listening to me or getting bored. So I know how to tell if someone listening to me is getting bored. When I'm reading a story, I find it difficult to work out the character's intentions. Definitely agree, slightly disagree, or definitely disagree. When I'm reading a story, I find it difficult to work out the character's intentions. Okay? I like to collect information about categories of things, e.g. types of car, types of bird, types of plane, or types of plant, etc. I'll repeat that. I like to collect information about categories of things, types of cars, types of birds, types of trains, types of plants, etc. Those are just examples. Okay? I find it easy to work out what someone is thinking or feeling just by looking at their face. I find it difficult to work out people's intentions. Okay. And those are those questions done. Like I said, they're the really basic ones. I've got slightly unusual things for you. What I'd like you to do is look at these faces. You see? Can you see them all right? So what I'd like you to do is I will ask you a question about each of these faces, and you just answer it as best you can, all right? Doesn't matter if you're right or wrong. There is not really a right or wrong. It's your interpretation of it, all right? So, is this, and we're going to use binary gender tropes. This is simply for the purpose of this exercise. I do apologise, but it's just to ascertain facial recognition. Okay? So is this a man or a woman? A man or a woman? Okay. What is this person feeling? What is this person feeling? What is this person feeling? Okay. Is this a man or a woman? Okay. What is this person feeling? What is this person feeling? Okay. Is this a man or a woman? Is this a man or a woman? Okay. Have you seen this face before in these pictures? Not in real life. In these pictures. Have you seen this face in these pictures before? Okay. What emotion is this person feeling? All right. And what about this person? Okay. What about this person? What are they feeling? Okay. Is this a man or a woman? All right. And this one, have you seen this face amongst these faces? So have you seen this face before amongst these faces? Okay. Thank you. How was that? Yeah. That's the funniest one. Funny's the real word, but so basically what we look for is we look for symptoms is the wrong word, but for lack of a better one, symptoms that are typically associated with neurodiversity or ASD specifically. And one of those can be prosopagnosia, or in general, a sort of face or emotion blindness to what people are showing. And this is different for everyone. I mean, there are loads of comorbid, that's a nice phrase, isn't it? Comorbid symptoms associated with neurodiversity, especially ASD. I myself, for example, am hyperextensive. So I won't show you because it's a bit gross, but my arms and fingers and stuff bend back. And hypermobility like that is often comorbidly found with neurodiversity or ASD. Similarly, what we tend to find is that people who are on the spectrum can have difficulty sleeping, and that's because the brain doesn't produce as much melatonin sometimes for people who are autistic or ASD. Okay? The thing is, and what everyone has to remember, it is a spectrum, and it is broad. A lot of people have notions of what autism is, or even stigma attached to it. For example, people can sometimes think that autistic people are emotionless, and that's not the case. Sometimes it can be the complete opposite. There can be such a strong connection or misunderstanding of feeling that it is overwhelming for some people. Okay? Similarly, people tend to think that autistic people have difficulty making eye contact. Of course, this is the case. But also, the opposite is true. In fact, typically in female neurodiverse patients, it was discovered that it's the opposite. Like, there is an intense eye contact, almost an overcompensation for lack of, if you like. Yeah, so it's varied, broad. And the thing is as well, we are learning new things about it every day. It's constantly changing. And sometimes I think categorization or things like that isn't necessarily helpful, because it is constantly changing and we're constantly learning. So, one diagnosis might be replaced by another a few days later. We might learn something new that can help the process, or that something wasn't real, or true rather. The diagnosis of being neurodiverse or ASD is helpful, not for anyone else but yourself, because it allows you to understand yourself a bit better. And like I said, sort of get access to tools that you can use to enhance or improve your experience in the world. Anyway, I'm blabbing on. What am I doing? Let's get on with this. So we're looking at stereotyped behaviors, communication, social interactions, things like that. And all of that combines to sort of create a profile of you, and we can look at how we can best support you through your journey of neurodiversity, if indeed you agree or receive a diagnosis after this session. All right? I'm talking like a politician today. So I'm going to ask you some questions, okay? This time we're going to get away from me being confused about slightly agree, slightly disagree and all that, and we're just going to go 0, 1, 2, or 3. These things are to do with your interactions, all right? So I want you, on a scale, to tell me how frequently or infrequently you do these things, or you think that you do these things. Frequently being 3, or never being 0, okay? And in between 1 and 2, yeah? So, do you establish eye contact? And do you look away when eye contact is made? Okay. Do you stare at hands, objects, or items in the environment around you for at least 5 seconds? Yeah, try to just go with your gut in your response. Do you tend to flick your fingers rapidly in front of your eyes? Do you have very specific food tastes or requirements, and would you call yourself a fussy eater? Do you find sometimes that you lick, taste, or attempt to eat inedible objects? Okay. Do you smell objects a lot or sniff at them? And that can be dogs and animals too. Do you find that you pace quite a lot when you're thinking or when you're on your own? Do you enjoy spinning objects that aren't designed for spinning? For example, bowls or crockery and cutlery and stuff like that. All right. Do you find it difficult to keep still and tend to rock back and forward? Do you sometimes, when you move, make quite surprising or lunging movements from one place to another? Okay. Some of these will seem a bit strange. Do you like prancing or walking about on your tiptoes? Yeah, like you're sneaking around. Do you sometimes flap your hands in front of your face? Like that. Do you sometimes find yourself making strange or loud vocalizations that are like extended vowel sounds? For example, E or I or O. Alright. Do you ever try to slap, hit, or bite yourself? It doesn't, not necessarily to deliberately hurt yourself, but almost as a stimulus. Alright. Okay. The next lot, so same rules, 0 to 3, 0 being never, 3 being frequently. Okay? So, do you find sometimes that you echo or repeat words or things that you hear? For example, like a parrot. So you might see something on TV, someone says something funny, and you immediately repeat, yeah, okay. Do you sometimes repeat words out of context? For example, with the same example, let's say you watched something on TV, and then 2 hours later, almost out of nowhere, you repeat that thing that you heard, if you see what I mean. Okay. Do you find that you sort of get in a loop of these things, like you repeat phrases over and over again? Maybe sometimes people get annoyed. Do you sometimes speak with a flat tone or affect a dysrhythmic pattern? So, almost like I just did then. So, I talk like this quite lyrically sometimes, but sometimes I will start talking in a different way, deliberately. Okay? Do you sometimes find that you respond inappropriately or almost in the opposite way to simple commands? For example, sit down or stand up. So if someone told you to sit down, you might just stand up. Okay. Do you sometimes look away or avoid looking at the speaker when your name is called? So almost like you specifically don't want your name to be called. Okay. Do you find it sometimes difficult to ask for things that you want? Do you sometimes find it difficult to initiate conversations with peers, co-workers, etc.? Do you sometimes use yes and no inappropriately? For example, you might say yes to doing something you really don't want to do, and you might accidentally do it, or you might do it because you feel you have to, or things like that. Or for example, let's say that there's something you really want and someone says, would you like it? And for some reason you say no. Okay. Do you sometimes misuse pronouns? And that can be plural or whatever. Do you sometimes either not use appropriately or misuse the pronoun I? So about yourself, like you might just talk about yourself in the third person or something like that instead, not stylistically. All right. Do you sometimes make or repeat unintelligible sounds? Okay. Do you sometimes find yourself using gestures or gesticulations to refer to things rather than using words? Okay. And can you find yourself sometimes inappropriately answering questions about a statement or brief story? So for example, someone might just say, what do you think of that? After they say a sentence, and then you give them an essay, which is fine, but yeah, all right. Okay. So this is the last set of questions. All right. Same rule again. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 0, never, 3, frequently. Okay. So, do you sometimes avoid eye contact when someone looks at you, or do you look away from them when they do? Sorry, I jumbled up that question. Do you avoid eye contact? It's fine if you do, don't worry. Do you sometimes feel unhappy, unexcited, or confused when praised, humoured, or entertained? So, for example, if someone says to you, oh, good job, well done, you did really well, does it sometimes make you almost feel the opposite to what you would expect to feel? For example, upset. Do you resist physical contact from others? For example, hugs, pats, or being held affectionately? So, for example, do you not imitate other people when imitation is required or desirable, such as in learning games or activities, or, like a video game even? Like, you deliberately or subconsciously don't mimic them when you need to. Okay. Do you sometimes withdraw, remain aloof, or act standoffish in group situations? All right. Do you sometimes behave in an unreasonably fearful or frightened manner? Okay. Do you consider yourself unaffectionate, or you don't give too much affection? Do you sometimes show no recognition when someone is present, or just completely not recognize who they are, even though you may have met multiple times? Okay. Do you sometimes laugh, giggle, or cry inappropriately? So do you sometimes use toys or objects inappropriately? For example, you might spin a toy car rather than drive it along. Yeah, so things not in their intended way. Okay. Do you do certain things repetitively, almost ritualistically? All right. Do you become upset when your routine or what you expected to happen is suddenly changed? Do you sometimes find that you respond negatively or with temper tantrums when given commands, requests, or directions? Okay. And finally, do you sometimes line up objects in precise, orderly fashion and become upset when that is disturbed? Okay. Yes, fine, don't worry. No, that's all the questions for now. I don't know how to make it clipboard. Yeah, so part of this assessment is talking to your next of kin, and we'll do that independently of this discussion. That's just to get a view as to what you were like as a child or what you're like to cohabit with, that kind of thing. Yes, we often find that, getting insight from those closest to you helps us in making an assessment. All right. Now, I don't want you to worry, because this is all for you. Nothing will change. There is no medication that you go on for it. All that happens is that you either accept or decline a diagnosis, if there is one, and then your life carries on completely the same as it was before. The only difference being that, hopefully, through support and through anything we can provide, give you the tools so that you can basically understand yourself a bit better. And by understanding yourself a bit better, you can understand the world around you and your place in it. Okay? Because we want you here. You're perfect. The world likes you, and we want you to have a good time. That sounds weird, but that's basically what this is about. Okay? I will write to you in a few days after we've spoken to your next of kin. But until then, don't worry. Please take care of yourself, and I will see you soon.